When I got fired from my first job, my boss told me I'd never last in this city. Last month, I bought the building his office is in. The room fell silent. My boss leaned back, eyes cold. His office smelled of leather and dust. A clock ticked louder than my heartbeat. I gripped the edge of my chair. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. Then, the words cut through the air. You'll never last in this city. I wanted to argue. I wanted to prove him wrong. But my throat locked. The world blurred around me. My first job. My first real chance. And it was gone. I walked out carrying nothing. No plan. No backup. Only his voice echoing inside me. The city roared outside. Cars, horns, voices, all blending into one. I stood on the sidewalk, jobless. Rain tapped against my jacket. Each drop felt heavier than the last. People rushed past me. They had places to be, dreams to chase. I had none. My phone buzzed. Friends messaged about weekend plans. I couldn't reply. How do you tell them you failed? I looked up at the skyscrapers. Glass towers cut into the sky. Bright lights, big names. Power I didn't have. His words followed me like a shadow. You'll never last. They echoed with every step I took. I wanted to run, but where? I walked for hours. No destination. Just streets stretching endlessly. My shoes soaked through. Pavement glistened under neon signs. Every light reminded me of success I didn't have. I passed restaurants. Laughter spilled out of their doors. Couples clinked glasses. Life moved on without me. My stomach growled. I ignored it. Hunger was easier than shame. I found a bench near the river. The city skyline stared back, tall, untouchable. I clenched my fists. For the first time, anger cut through the fear. A single thought burned inside me. What if I prove him wrong? Morning came too soon. I wore the same wrinkled shirt. I carried the same empty briefcase. Job boards filled my screen. Endless listings, endless promises. I clicked, applied, waited. Hours passed. No replies. I walked into offices. Receptionists smiled politely. Managers shook their heads. Not hiring. Not a fit. Try again later. Every door felt heavier than the last. Every no stacked on top of me. At night, I lay on a borrowed couch. Ceiling cracked above me. City noises seeped through thin walls. I whispered to myself, don't quit, not yet. Days blurred into weeks. Applications vanished into silence. My savings thinned like paper. I skipped meals to stretch dollars. Coffee became dinner. Water became hope. Friends stopped calling. I stopped answering. Shame built walls around me. One night, I stared at my reflection. Dark circles, hollow cheeks, eyes I barely recognized. I asked the mirror a question. Maybe he was right? The city outside kept glowing, but inside, my light flickered. I sat in the dark, waiting for a sign. Any sign. The sign came quietly. A flyer taped to a cafe window. Help wanted. No experience required. I froze on the sidewalk. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't my dream, but it was something. Inside, the cafe buzzed with warmth. The smell of bread filled the air. A woman behind the counter smiled. Looking for work? I nodded. Voice cracked. Hands shook. She handed me an apron. Start tomorrow. It wasn't an office. It wasn't power, but it was a lifeline. For the first time in weeks, I felt the city wasn't against me. The apron felt heavy, not from weight, but from pride. I wiped tables, scrubbed floors, carried trays to strangers. Customers barely looked at me. Some snapped fingers. Some left messes without care. Each shift stretched forever. Grease clung to my skin. The smell of coffee followed me home, but I learned something. To smile when tired. To listen when ignored. To move fast under pressure. It wasn't respect. It wasn't glory, but it was survival. Every dollar I earned was proof I hadn't quit. One morning, the cafe overflowed. Lines stretched out the door. Cups rattled. Voices clashed. I moved fast, hands steady, mind sharp. A man in a gray suit watched me. He sat in the corner, laptop open. Eyes followed my every step. When the rush ended, he called me over. You work hard, he said. You think fast. I wiped sweat from my brow. Just doing my job. He smiled. People who say that usually mean more. Then he left a business card on the table. White, clean, heavy stock. My hands trembled as I picked it up. The card burned in my pocket. I couldn't stop touching it. Smooth edges, sharp corners, a promise or a trap. At night, I set it on the table, stared at the bold black letters. A name I didn't know. A company I couldn't pronounce. What if it was a trick? What if he laughed at me? Another powerful man waiting to remind me I was nothing. I almost tore it in half, but I couldn't. Something inside me whispered, this could be it. Sleep never came. The card glowed in the dark, like the city itself, daring me to try again. Morning light spilled through the blinds. The card still lay on the table. I picked it up. My hands shook. I dialed the number. Each ring felt endless. My chest tightened. My throat went dry. A voice answered, calm, confident. This is Martin. Words tangled in my mouth. I met you at the cafe. Silence stretched. Then a low laugh. I remember. You work hard. He paused, then added, come by my office tomorrow. Let's talk. The line clicked dead. I sat frozen, phone still to my ear. Tomorrow could change everything, or nothing. Sleep refused to come. I lay on the couch, eyes wide open. The city hummed outside. Cars hissed over wet pavement. I stared at the ceiling. What if tomorrow was a trap? What if he laughed in my face? What if I failed again? The clock glowed past midnight. My stomach churned. Hands wouldn't stay still. I pulled out the card again, turned it over and over. It felt heavier than stone. I whispered to the dark, this has to matter. The night dragged on. One long stretch of fear and hope. When dawn finally broke, I wasn't rested, but I was ready. The building towered above me. Glass walls reflected the morning sun. My reflection looked smaller than ever. Inside, the lobby gleamed. Marble floors, polished steel. People in suits moved with purpose. I clutched the card in my hand. Sweat dampened the edges. My heart thudded like a drum. A receptionist smiled. Mr. Martin is expecting you. I followed her down a long hall. Each step echoed louder. Each second stretched thinner. His office door stood open. He looked up from his desk, calm, collected, like he belonged to this world. Glad you came, he said. Let's see what you're made of. I sat across from him. The chair felt too big. The room felt too quiet. Martin leaned forward. Tell me about yourself. My throat tightened. I worked in an office. Then I didn't. Now I serve coffee. He studied me, not with pity, with calculation. What did you learn from it? I blinked. From losing everything? Yes, he said. Failure is a teacher. What did it teach you? Silence pressed on my chest. I thought of hunger, rejection, nights staring at the ceiling. Finally, I whispered, it taught me I can survive. Martin smiled faintly. Good. Most can't. Martin leaned back. His gaze never wavered. You've got scars, he said. That's good. Scars mean you fought. I stayed silent, afraid to say the wrong thing. He tapped a pen on his desk. I'm not offering you a job. Not yet. The words hit like a stone. My chest tightened. Hope flickered dangerously. But what? He continued. I'll give you advice. One piece. I leaned forward, every nerve straining. Opportunities don't wait, he said. They hide in plain sight. Most people walk past them. Don't be like most people. He stood, signaling the meeting was over. Come back when you found one. I walked out, heart racing. No job, no promise, just a riddle to solve. The cafe smelled of burnt toast. Plates clattered. Orders piled up. I moved through the rush. Same apron, same tired steps, but my mind felt different. Martin's words replayed. Opportunities don't wait. They hide in plain sight. I looked harder. At the customers rushing to work. At the businessmen hunched over laptops. At the conversations whispered in corners. Was one of them my chance? Was it sitting right in front of me? A man snapped his fingers. Coffee black. I poured it quickly. Hands steady. Eyes sharper than ever. For the first time, the cafe didn't feel like a prison. It felt like a hunting ground. Lunch rush slammed the cafe. Orders barked. Trays rattled. My feet ached. Two men sat near the window. Suits sharp, voices low. Papers spread across the table. I passed by with plates. Their words slipped through the noise. Lease expires next month. Owner wants out. Could be a bargain if we move fast. My steps slowed. Lease? Owner? Bargain? One man noticed me. I forced a smile. Kept walking. Heart pounding. Behind the counter, I poured another coffee. Hands trembling. Mind racing. Was this the kind of chance Martin meant? I wiped down the counter. Eyes on the men by the window. Their papers shuffled. Their voices dropped lower. Lease? Owner? Bargain? The words echoed like thunder. I wanted to ask. I wanted to lean in. But my chest locked. What if they threw me out? What if I imagined everything? Plates crashed in the kitchen. Someone shouted for help. I kept moving. Pretended I hadn't heard a thing. But inside, the battle raged. Fear whispered. Stay quiet. Hope whispered louder. Don't miss this. That night, lying awake, I saw the skyline again. Tall, bright, distant. And one thought wouldn't leave me. What if that was the door? The next morning, I couldn't shake the words. Lease, owner, bargain. I walked to the cafe early. Too early. The streets were still waking. Instead of going inside, I followed my feet. Down the block, around the corner. I stopped in front of a building. Old brick. Faded sign. Windows dark. A paper notice clung to the door. Available. Contact for details. My pulse quickened. This was it. The thing I wasn't supposed to hear. The chance most people would ignore. Martin's voice whispered in my head. Don't be like most people. I copied the number from the notice. Wrote it on my palm with a pen. The ink smudged as my hand shook. Back at the cafe, I slipped into the break room. Phone in my hand. Number glowing on the screen. My thumb hovered. One call could change everything. Or ruin everything. What if they laughed at me? What if I sounded desperate? What if I wasn't ready? The bell above the cafe door rang. Customers poured in. I shoved the phone back in my pocket. All shift long, the number burned against my leg. Every time I moved, I felt it pressing harder. That night, lying awake, I whispered to the dark. Tomorrow, I'll call. Morning light filled the room. My phone sat on the table. The number waited in my contacts. I stared at it, breath shallow, hands damp. Then I pressed call. One ring, two, three. A rough voice answered. This is Daniels. My words stumbled out. I saw the notice on your building. Silence. Then a sharp laugh. Another dreamer. What do you want with it? My throat tightened, but I forced the words out. I want to know the price. The line went quiet again. Finally, the voice said, meet me tomorrow. We'll talk numbers. The call ended. I stared at the phone, heart pounding. I had no plan, but I had a meeting. I couldn't eat dinner, couldn't sit still. The meeting circled in my head. Daniel's voice replayed, rough, cold. Another dreamer? Was I just that? Another dreamer chasing smoke? I paced the floor. The clock ticked louder with each step. Every hour dragged. What if I asked the wrong question? What if the price was impossible? What if he threw me out on sight? I pressed my palms together, tried to steady my breath, but the weight of tomorrow pressed harder. Through the window, the city glowed, tall, distant, unmoved. I whispered to the glass, please, let this be real. The building looked older in daylight, brick cracked, paint peeling, a place most people ignored. Inside, the air smelled of dust. Footsteps echoed on the worn floor. Daniel stood by a window, broad shoulders, graying beard, eyes sharp as glass. You're the kid who called? He asked. His voice was gravel. Yes, I said. My palms sweated through my shirt. He crossed his arms. So tell me, what makes you think you can handle this place? My mouth went dry. Words tangled in my throat, but I forced them out because no one else will fight for it harder than me. Daniel studied me in silence. Then he smirked. Interesting answer. Daniels dropped a folder on the table. Papers slid out. Contracts, numbers, figures I barely understood. He tapped one page. This building isn't cheap. The owner wants out, but not for free. My eyes darted over the paper. The number glared back. 6 digits. More than I'd ever seen. My stomach twisted. It might as well have been a mountain. Daniels watched me struggle. Still interested? He asked, a challenge hidden in his tone. I swallowed hard. Every instinct screamed to walk away, but my voice betrayed my fear. Yes, I said, too quickly, too bold. Daniels smirked again. Then prove you can find the money. The door slammed behind me. I stood on the sidewalk, numb. Cars rushed past, horns blaring. The city didn't care. 6 digits. The number burned into my skull. Impossible. Laughable. I gripped the folder tighter. Paper cut my palm. I wanted to rip it apart, to throw it in the gutter, but I couldn't. It was proof the chance was real, and proof I wasn't ready. Rain began to fall. Cold drops streaked down my face. I didn't move, didn't blink. For the first time in weeks, I felt smaller than the day I was fired. I spread the papers across my tiny table. Numbers glared back like enemies. Columns I couldn't understand. Zeros that mocked me. I pulled out a notebook, started writing ideas. Borrow money, find investors, win the lottery, anything. Each plan collapsed as soon as it hit the page. No savings, no connections, no miracle ticket waiting. I rubbed my temples until they ached. The walls closed in. The air felt thin, but one truth cut through the noise. If I walked away, the boss who fired me would be right. I slammed the notebook shut. Failure wasn't an option. I just didn't know the path yet. I circled names in my phone. Old classmates, former coworkers, people I hadn't spoken to in years. One name stood out. A guy who once bragged about extra cash. I called him. My voice shook. We met at a diner. Greasy tables, cheap coffee. I laid the folder down. I've got a chance to buy a building. The words felt too big in my mouth. He laughed before I finished. You? A building? He pushed the folder back across the table. Stick to pouring coffee. The sting burned deep. But as I walked out into the night, I realized something. At least I tried, and I wasn't done yet. The next day, I tried again. This time with a cafe regular. Always in a suit. Always reading the business section. I caught him after his third coffee. Excuse me, sir. I overheard you talk about real estate before. Would you consider consider a partnership? He lowered his newspaper, eyebrows arched. You? A partnership? His laugh was sharper than the first man's. He stood, dropped a crumpled bill on the table. Here's your tip. Don't ask again. The sound of his footsteps lingered. Cold, final. Back behind the counter, I forced a smile for the next customer, but inside, I was breaking. That night, I didn't go home. I walked the streets instead, block after block, aimless, empty. The city lights blurred in my eyes. I told myself it was rain, but it wasn't. I stopped at the river. Water churned under the bridge. Cold wind cut through my jacket. The folder weighed heavy in my bag. Numbers I couldn't reach. Dreams I couldn't touch. For the first time, I thought about quitting, about throwing the folder into the river, letting the current swallow it whole. My hand gripped the strap, tighter, tighter, but I couldn't let go. I whispered into the night, "Someone, tell me what to do." Talking to ghosts now? I spun around. Martin stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, eyes steady, unreadable. My throat closed. "How did you? I come here too," he said. "Good place to think, bad place to quit." Shame burned in my chest. "I can't do it. The price. It's impossible." Martin stepped closer. "Of course it's impossible. That's why it matters." I looked at the folder in my bag, heavy, useless, but his words sparked something again. Martin's voice softened. "You don't climb a mountain in one leap. You take steps. Start smaller. Prove yourself. Doors open when people see you won't quit." He turned to leave. "Don't throw it away. Not yet." I walked home with Martin's words in my head. Not one leap. Steps. The city looked different that night. Still cold. Still towering, but less impossible. At my table, I spread the folder again. Numbers still screamed at me, but now I searched for cracks, for smaller pieces I could reach. What if I started small, saved more, learned more, found people who believed in grit, not polish? I grabbed my notebook, page after page filled with scribbles. Ideas rough, messy, half-formed, but alive. For the first time, the fear didn't feel bigger than the dream. I wasn't ready to quit. Not anymore. The cafe opened at dawn. I was there before the lights flicked on, apron tied tight, notebook hidden in my bag. I worked faster, smarter. Every tip went straight into a jar. No takeout, no wasted coins. Every dollar had a purpose now. When my shift ended, I stayed to clean. Floors, counters, windows, work no one asked me to do. The manager noticed. "You're different lately," she said. I just smiled, didn't explain. Each night, I counted the jar. Pennies, quarters, crumpled bills, tiny steps, but steps all the same. And with every coin dropped, the dream felt less like smoke, more like stone. After shifts, I walked to the library. Old floors creaked under my steps. Rows of books towered higher than me. I grabbed anything with numbers, business, real estate, finance, words that once scared me. Now I devoured them. Pages blurred late into the night, margins filled with notes, formulas scratched onto napkins, dreams sketched beside dollar signs. Some nights, I fell asleep at the desk. The guards woke me, but I left with more than I came with. Knowledge. Not enough yet, but growing. For the first time, I didn't just imagine owning a building. I began to understand how. I left the library one night, arms heavy with books. The city air bit cold. A familiar voice called out, "Earning the midnight oil?" I turned. Martin leaned against the lamppost, hands in his pockets. That same unreadable stare. "You've changed," he said. "Less fear in your eyes, more fire." I shifted the stack of books, trying to learn, trying to catch up. Martin smirked. "Books are good, but knowledge without action is nothing." My chest tightened. "What do I do then?" He stepped closer. "Find a way to use what you've learned, even if it's small. Show me you can apply it." Then, like always, he walked away before I could ask more. The cafe manager sat in the back office, bills stacked high, receipts scattered across the desk. She rubbed her temples. "Rent's going up again. I don't know how long I can keep this place." I hesitated in the doorway, then stepped closer. "Can I look at the numbers?" She frowned. "You? What do you know about it?" "Not much," I admitted, "but I've been learning." I spread the receipts across the desk, sorted them, grouped them, pointed out waste that bled money daily. Her eyes widened. "I never noticed that." I handed her a notebook page. Small changes, not a fix, but a start. For the first time, I felt useful beyond serving coffee. The next morning, the manager pulled me aside. She held the notebook page I'd given her. "You were right," she said. "Those little changes saved us money already." I froze, unsure what to say. She smiled faintly. "You see things I don't? I want you to look over the books each week. Help me keep this place alive." My chest tightened. Not from fear this time, from pride. I nodded. "I'll do it." That night, counting coins from my jar, I felt something new. Not just survival, not just hope, but progress. For the first time, the mountain looked climbable. I stepped out of the cafe late at night. The streets were quiet. The city lights hummed above me. Martin leaned against a parked car, arms folded. That same calm stare. "You've been busy," he said. "The manager talks. Said you're saving her money." My heart jumped. She told him. Martin stepped closer. "Not bad, but saving pennies isn't enough. You want buildings? You need to think bigger." I swallowed hard. "What do I do next?" He smirked. "Find value where others see none. Turn weakness into strength. Do that, and people will listen." Before I could answer, he slid into the car and drove off. I walked the city with new eyes. Every cracked wall, every empty shop, every for lease sign. Was this weakness? Could it be strength? I scribbled notes in my pocket notebook. Addresses, numbers, ideas half-formed. One storefront caught my eye. Dark, dusty, forgotten. I asked the shopkeeper next door. "Been empty for years," he said. "Not worth the trouble." I wrote it down anyway, but doubt gnawed at me. What did I know about value? About turning decay into profit? By nightfall, my notebook brimmed with scribbles, but none of them felt like answers. I stared at the skyline again. Martin's words echoed. "Find value where others see none." I whispered to myself, "I'm looking, but what am I missing?" The cafe was half empty that afternoon. Rain streaked the windows. Customers sat quiet, staring at phones. I wiped the table near the corner. That's when I noticed it. A cracked chair leg, wobbling under the weight of a customer. She stood to leave. I slid the chair aside, grabbed tools from the back, and fixed it in minutes. The manager walked over. "You saved me money." I was about to toss that chair. I looked at the chair again. Broken. Almost useless, but not worthless. Something clicked inside me. Value isn't always obvious. Sometimes it hides in cracks. Sometimes it just needs fixing. I stared out the rain-streaked glass. Maybe Martin was right. Maybe I was finally learning to see. I walked home with the rain at my back. The city glistened under streetlights. Every crack, every shadow looked different now. On one block, I stopped in front of a corner store. Windows dusty, sign half broken. People walked past without a glance. I stepped closer, peered through the glass. Shelves stood half empty, but the location, right by a subway entrance. Hundreds Hundreds passed by every hour. It wasn't worthless. It was waiting. I pulled out my notebook, sketched the building, wrote down foot traffic, jotted notes about potential. For the first time, I didn't just see what was broken. I saw what it could become. And for the first time, the city didn't look impossible. It looked full of chances. I couldn't keep it to myself. The corner store buzzed in my head all night. The foot traffic, the potential, the vision. The next morning, I told a coworker at the cafe. Young guy, always joking. I thought maybe he'd understand. I pulled out my notebook, showed him the sketch, explained the location, the opportunity. He laughed so loud customers turned. You? Talking about properties? Man, you can't even pay rent. Heat rushed to my face. I snapped the notebook shut, walked away before the sting cut deeper. All shift long, his laughter echoed in my ears, but under the shame, a quieter thought remained. Maybe he laughed because he couldn't see what I saw. The laughter still rang in my head, but instead of quitting, I doubled down. I returned to the corner store, notebook in hand. This time, I stayed for hours. I counted people as they passed, one by one, dozens each minute, hundreds by the hour. I noted the subway schedule, the lunch rush, the evening crowd. I spoke to the shopkeeper next door. Place has been dead for years, he said, but with the right hands, could be gold. That night, I filled page after page, charts, numbers, possibilities. For the first time, my notes didn't look like dreams. They looked like plans. I spotted Martin outside the library. Same calm stance, same sharp eyes. I walked straight to him. No hesitation this time. I found something, I said. I opened my notebook, showed him the sketches, the numbers, the hours I tracked. Martin flipped through the pages. His brow barely moved. He closed the notebook and looked at me. You're seeing clearer, he said. Not just what is, but what could be. Hope surged in my chest. Does that mean I'm ready? Martin smirked. Ready? No, but closer. You've stopped dreaming. You've started thinking. He handed the notebook back. Now the question is, can you convince anyone else? I circled numbers in my notebook, practiced lines in the mirror. Location equals opportunity. Foot traffic equals profit. The words sounded strong alone, but thin in my mouth. Still, I forced myself forward. I found a local investor's contact online, sent a shaky email. To my surprise, he replied, come by tomorrow, 10 minutes. The office was glass and steel. Receptionist sharp-eyed. I waited, palms sweating. Inside, the man barely looked up. Go ahead, he said. I laid out my notes, spoke too fast, skipped lines, stumbled over numbers. He closed the folder halfway through. Not bad for a kid, but come back when you've got more than scribbles. I walked out crushed, but beneath the sting, a single truth burned. At least I was in the room. I sat on the library steps, notebook open, pages shaking in my hands. The investor's words echoed. Come back when you've got more than scribbles. I wanted to rip the pages apart, toss them into the street. A shadow fell across me. The cafe manager. She held a paper bag. You forgot your dinner, she said. She set it down beside me, glanced at my notes. You really believe in this, don't you? I swallowed hard. I have to. It's all I've got. She smiled softly. Then keep going. Most people quit before they see results. Don't be most people. Her words echoed Martin's. Two voices now, both telling me the same thing. Don't quit. The cafe was packed that morning. Orders piled high. Steam hissed. The register beeped nonstop. In the chaos, the manager pulled me aside. Rent's due this week, she whispered. Her hands trembled. If we can't pay, the landlord shuts us down. The words hit like a punch. If the cafe closed, my extra shifts, my savings, gone. The one place that gave me purpose, gone. I looked at her tired eyes, at the crowded cafe, at the tip jar half full on the counter. My throat tightened. This wasn't just her fight, it was mine too. I clenched my fists. I'll figure something out. But as I said it, a cold truth echoed inside. How do you save a dream when you can't even save your job? I spread the cafe's bills across the counter. Rent, utilities, suppliers, numbers stacked like walls around us. The manager sighed. It's too much. We'll never make it. I shook my head. Not never. Not if we fight smart. I pulled out my notebook, crossed out waste, listed cheaper suppliers, redrew schedules to cut overtime. She watched, doubtful at first, but as the numbers shifted, her eyes widened. You really think this could work? I nodded. It won't solve everything, but it'll buy us time. We stayed late, turning panic into plans. By midnight, the mountain looked smaller. For the first time, I wasn't just saving coins in a jar. I was saving a place that mattered. Rent day arrived. The manager's hand shook as she counted the cash. I stood beside her. Every bill felt like a heartbeat, every coin like a prayer. When the landlord walked in, the cafe went silent. He crossed his arms. Do you have it? The manager slid the envelope across. He flipped through the bills, eyebrows furrowed. Minutes stretched like hours. Finally, he grunted. Short, but close enough. I'll give you another month. Relief crashed over us. The manager's shoulders dropped. Customers cheered softly. I exhaled for the first time in days. We weren't safe, but we were alive. And deep inside, a fire grew stronger. If I could help save this cafe, maybe one day, I could save a building of my own. The cafe hummed with life again. Customers laughed, cups clinked. The air felt lighter. But inside me, something heavier stirred. Saving one cafe was proof that I could turn numbers into survival. Proof that I wasn't just guessing anymore. That night, I opened my notebook, ripped out the messy pages, started clean. Foot traffic, revenue potential, comparable rents, every line sharper, every word stronger. I practiced in the mirror. No stumbles this time, no shaky voice. Every sentence hit like stone. When I closed the notebook, I didn't just feel ready, I felt dangerous. I walked into the office lobby. Marble floors gleamed under bright lights. My reflection stared back in the glass doors. This time, I didn't flinch. The receptionist glanced up. Appointment? Yes, I said firmly. My voice didn't shake. The investor sat across the desk, gray suit, sharp eyes. 10 minutes, he said. Go. I opened my notebook, put traffic counts, revenue projections, comparisons to nearby stores. Each word landed steady. Each number had weight. The room stayed quiet, but not dismissive this time. When I finished, the investor leaned back. He tapped his pen on the desk. Better, he said. Still risky, but better. My heart pounded. It wasn't yes. It wasn't no. It was the first crack in the wall. One pitch turned into two. Two turned into five. Five turned into 10. Some investors laughed. Some cut me off mid-sentence. Some listened, nodded, but sent me away with polite smiles. Each rejection stung, but each one sharpened me. I trimmed the fat, made the numbers tighter, made the vision clearer. By the 10th pitch, I didn't sound like a barista with a crazy dream. I sounded like a man who saw something they didn't. One investor leaned forward. You're persistent, he said. Dangerous quality in this business. He didn't write a check, but he didn't shut the door either. Walking out, I felt it. Momentum. For the first time, the city wasn't pushing me away. It was leaning closer. I found Martin waiting outside the cafe, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "You've been busy," he said. "Word gets around." I swallowed hard. "Mostly rejections." He tilted his head. "Mostly isn't all. What matters is, you're still standing." I opened my notebook, showed him the newest numbers, the sharper lines, the cleaner vision. He flipped through slowly, then shut it with a snap. "You've grown," he said. "Not enough to win yet, but enough to scare people who never saw you coming." My chest tightened. "So what now?" Martin smirked. "Now you stop chasing scraps, and you aim for a shark. One investor who can make this real in a single stroke." I asked around. Names whispered in quiet corners. Investors with power. People who could change everything with one check. One name came up again and again. Victor Hale, a man who owned half the skyline. I searched his office online. Steel and glass, penthouse views. The kind of place you didn't just walk into. I called once. No answer. I called again. "Mr. Hale doesn't take cold pitches." The assistant snapped. Doors slammed. Emails bounced back. Every attempt died before it began. At night, I stared at the skyline. Somewhere up there, Hale looked down on all of us. The thought burned in my chest. How do you reach a man who lives above the clouds? I learned Hale's habits. He stopped by the same hotel bar on Fridays. Always the corner seat. Always the same drink. That night, I walked into the bar with trembling hands. Suit borrowed. Shoes scuffed but polished. There he was. Silver hair. Sharp eyes. Surrounded by silence. Like the whole room bent away from him. I ordered water. Sat 2 stools over. Heart racing. Minutes passed. My chance slipping. Finally, I slid my notebook onto the bar. Pages open to my sketches. Hale's eyes flicked down. Then up at me. Cold. Curious. "You've got 5 seconds," he said. "Use them." 5 seconds. That's all he gave me. My mind exploded. The boss who fired me. The nights hungry on a couch. The cafe I almost lost. The rejections. The laughter. The numbers in my notebook. 4 seconds. My throat tightened. Words fought to escape. 3 seconds. Martin's voice echoed. "Opportunities don't wait. They hide in plain sight." 2 seconds. The skyline burned in my memory. Tall, distant, untouchable. Unless I claimed it. 1 second. I leaned forward. Voice steady. "I see value where others see waste, and I can prove it." Hale's eyes locked on mine. The bar went silent. Even the air seemed to wait. He didn't blink. Didn't move. Then, slowly, he closed my notebook. "You've got guts," he said. "Most kids waste my time. You risked yours to get here." My chest thudded. "Does that mean?" He cut me off with a raised hand. "Prove it. Bring me one deal that works. One. If you make money on it, I'll back you on the next." He stood, dropped cash on the bar, and walked out without another word. I sat frozen, notebook clutched tight. No check, no promise. But for the first time, I had a door, and this time, I wasn't afraid to walk through it. Hale's office smelled of leather and steel. Windows stretched to the sky. The city looked small from here. He leaned back in his chair. "Here's your chance," he said. "One property. Cheap. Rotting. Everyone else passed on it." He slid a folder across the desk. Photos of a crumbling warehouse. Broken windows. Graffiti on the walls. My stomach sank. It looked worthless. But Hale's eyes cut through me. "Find value, or prove your boss was right about you." I opened my notebook. Hands steady this time. I didn't see broken glass. I saw potential. I looked up. "I'll take it." Hale's smirk widened. "Good. Now let's see if you survive." The warehouse reeked of mold and rust. Floors cracked. Ceilings leaked. Every corner whispered failure. Contractors laughed when I called. "Not worth the work," one said. Another hung up before I finished. I rolled up my sleeves, scrubbed walls, cleared trash, painted until my hands ached. At night, I studied permits, loans, city codes, words that once scared me, now carved into my notebook. The neighbors watched. Some shook their heads. Some offered quiet nods. Weeks bled into months. The warehouse changed. Windows replaced. Walls patched. Lights flickered back to life. The day the first tenant signed a lease, I stood in the empty hall, breath heavy, hands trembling. For the first time, I felt like an owner. I walked back into Hale's office. Suit still cheap, shoes still scuffed, but my head was higher this time. He flipped through the lease papers, didn't smile, didn't frown, just tapped the page with his pen. "You pulled it off," he said. "Most wouldn't bother. Most would quit." Heat spread through my chest. "Not me." Hale leaned forward. "That warehouse will pay you steady. Small money, but proof you can deliver." He slid a new folder across the desk. Bigger, heavier. "This one isn't charity," he said. "You'll need real investors, real risk. Let's see if anyone believes in you now." I gripped the folder. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was momentum. The new folder felt heavier than stone. Downtown property, prime location, price tag, with too many zeros. I knocked on doors, made calls, pitched in crowded offices and quiet diners. Some laughed. "Too big for you." Others smiled politely. "Come back when you're seasoned." Each no cut deep, but I sharpened my pitch again and again until the words hit like steel. Weeks passed. One night, an older investor leaned forward. "You remind me of myself. Hungry, stubborn." He signed the papers. His money hit the account. My chest nearly burst. The next morning, construction crews broke ground. Dust filled the air. Dreams rose with every brick. The city buzzed with rumors. A building downtown. Old, respected, tenants uneasy. I caught a headline in the paper. "Owner looking to sell." My heart stopped. I knew that address. I knew those windows. I knew that office. It was the same building where my boss once leaned back in his chair, eyes cold, telling me I'd never last. The cafe noise faded around me. All I could see was that moment again. His smirk, my silence. Now the walls were cracking. The floors were shaking. And the building was for sale. I whispered to myself, "This is it." The auction room buzzed like a hive. Investors in suits, pens tapping, numbers whispered. I sat near the front, folder in my lap, hands steady, or at least pretending to be. The opening bid hit the air. Higher than I'd hoped, lower than I'd feared. Hands shot up. Numbers climbed. 200, 300, 4. Sweat beaded on my neck. Each raise cut deeper into my chest. Then silence. Just me and one other bidder. A man with silver cufflinks and a smirk that said I'd already lost. The auctioneer's voice boomed. "Final call." I lifted my hand. My heart slammed. My bid held. The room gasped. The other bidder hesitated, then lowered his card. "Sold." The gavel struck. The sound echoed like thunder. The building was mine. The lobby smelled the same. Polished floors, cold marble walls. Memories clawed at my chest. I rode the elevator up, the same one I once took down, carrying nothing but shame. At the corner office, he sat behind the desk, older now, hair thinner, but the smirk was the same. He looked up. Surprise flickered, then confusion. What are you doing here? I stepped closer, set the deed on his desk, my name stamped in bold. I own this building now, I said, my voice steady, no tremor, no fear. His smirk faltered. For the first time, he had nothing to say. I turned toward the window. The skyline stretched beyond the glass, tall, bright, no longer untouchable. I whispered, just loud enough. You said I'd never last in this city. Looks like I'm here to stay.